Just a couple days too late, but we did it. We're here for episode 124 of Hotline League, and I'm so happy to be joined by my co-host and our guest for this week because it's actually perfect because we had to delay the show for a couple of days because of reasons that Mark will explain, and a lot has happened in the past 2 days, so it's actually perfect. Maybe it was all part of the master plan. How you doing, Mark, my constant co-host?
I knew all this information was coming out today, so I made sure to delay the start of the show. What happened was I spilled water on my computer, and I put it in rice, the classic. And 2 days later, it's chugging along just fine. No ill effects, and that's why it's on Wednesday instead of Monday.
That's true. I got a message from Mark on Monday. I messaged him on Monday, and I was like, I don't know who we should have on this today. Do you have any ideas? Because it was Memorial Day weekend, and I maybe should have done a better job of booking guests. Anyway, and Mark was like, my computer's not working. I was like, what? That doesn't sound like the Alienware technology I know. And he's like, might be water damage. And I was like, okay. So he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, I can loan you a computer. And he's like, let's just try on Wednesday, which was a better day for me anyway. So we ended up now pushing to Wednesday, and his computer's fine. So that's the shout out to Alienware at the start of the show. Raz is here. Raz, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Apparently my PC didn't have to go through the same torture his had to, so I'll take that as a dub.
Yeah. And we do have some, I know we have a little bit of audio issues with Raz right now. We were trying to figure out some mic stuff, but we just needed to get the show going. So my apologies to podcast listeners who perhaps have in-ears in and are struggling with this. Either way.
Oh, no, is it that bad? Wait a second.
Raz? It is what it is. All right? We're 15 minutes late. We just got to live with it. We got to live with it.
I can always try with my webcam mic.
I don't think we should be doing audio changes in the middle of the show once it started. But
I mean, we've already had a lot of tech issues with this show in its history, so I'm okay with this small change.
I already shouted out Alienware, by the way, but I am very excited, and we'll talk more about this later on in the show, but let's see if I can. We have a second sponsor for this episode, and for the next 3 weeks, I'm very excited. Welcome Draft Buff to the show. If you have missed doing the fantasy stuff that Riot used to provide and hasn't for a very long time, guess what? There's finally a place you can go to do that. Go to draftbuff.com, and it's not like a gambling thing. It's just good old fashioned fantasy, and actually kind of better than the stuff that Riot provided because there's more options and that kind of thing. There's an app on both Google Play and the App Store. Look, I'm already getting ahead of myself. I want to do the full breakdown of their stuff once we get to their break in the second half of the show. But thank you, DraftBuff, for sponsoring. And everybody do me a favor, go check out draftbuff.com. I'll put their link in the chat right now for people who are watching Twitch.
I'm opening it up.
Yeah. I mean, you could go draft. Mark and I'm trying to get Mark to do a draft before the start of the split, maybe in 2 weeks on stream. We'll see. But anyway, whatever. We'll talk more about DraftBuff a little bit. And again, thank you to Alienware as well, both of our sponsors, for sponsoring this episode. We'll be rotating their logos. Anyway, Mark.
Yeah.
Crazy couple of days, I feel like. Crazy day today.
Can you break down all the craziness for anyone who wouldn't have caught it?
Did you miss it? Were you not
I think I caught all of it. It's mostly Dignitas and TSM stuff, right?
Yeah, Dignitas and TSM. We got Viper. There's a rumor that Huni is going to EG. And
oh, I did miss that one, actually.
Yeah.
I see it now.
Spica confirmed for TSM. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I guess the stream stuff got a little bit more teased on what's happening this weekend, the big streaming event. So that'll be pretty cool. Twitch chat, am I forgetting anything else? We're not going to talk about Tyler One hitting Challenger. I don't know.
Tarzan Dom drama.
Is that something we should?
No, there's nothing to say. Is there?
I don't think there's anything to say about that.
I'm ready for the caller to come in with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way.
TSM, what about this drama on Twitter?
But also, and Double F just tweeted something about how he feels as though he's like, oh man, it's so much cooler whenever the community is doubting your team So I think a lot of people are because of the Spica thing are pretty doubtful of that. Oh, by the way,
Yeah, I
Dardock
mean, it
joining
always feels
Dignitas. I
good.
know I said Viper, but I don't know if I said Dardock. I think Mark, you said Dardock.
No, I said the Dignitas and TSM stuff kind of encapsulating
Yes.
all those moves.
Yep. But either way, Raz, how you been?
Doing all right, man. I can feel that sentiment with it's better to start the split with non-believers so you can. It's like a good drive, honestly. I mean, Doublelift already has an insane amount of drive after the end of that Team Liquid bit, right? And then now people obviously not looking too promised, like happy with the changes that they made. So
Yeah.
it's definitely an injection of dopamine.
How have you been spending the break? Because this is pretty long
Oh,
downtime.
I've been crazy. Yeah, I've been crazy. I hate it. I want to be more productive, and the worst thing about it is that you just lose. You lose sense of what day it is. It's
Yep.
always the worst part about it. And as you can see, like, I mean, it's growing back now, but I went bald because that's the only positive side of quarantine is that no one has to see your face in a while, so you can just do some experimentation. And the only opportunity I was going to have to really experiment on my bald head was either in quarantine or when I was already balding. And so I'd rather see what it looks
Sorry,
like.
why is it that you couldn't just do this under normal circumstances?
Well, because then you have to fucking walk around with it for 3 months.
It's a big coin flip, and it's like, am I ugly bald? And that's
You're in
the
front of
worst
close
kind
to
of
1,000 people right now.
Yeah, but
Huh? Most of the time, I'm not leaving my house.
you still, and like none of these people are like right in front of me. Like I don't have to see their eyes like scan my
Yes.
forehead as they talk to me, and they go, "God damn, where'd your hair go?"
Yep.
So I actually saw that tweet, Raz, like, I don't know when you put it out, like a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And you almost had me. Like, I was like, Ashley, get the Clippers. We're
You
doing
really
this.
should. Honestly, though, if you're not doing some wild shit during quarantine, then you're missing out because soon enough, you're going to be out there living a normal life and realizing, oh, no, people are going to judge me if I make the wrong decision.
It's too late now, though, because like LCS starts like, what, June 12th or something?
That's a fact. Yeah, you're
Like,
right.
I can't.
Yeah. All right. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Right.
That's the lick mark.
You should have the entire show in this, honestly. You might even get a call out of it.
All right. Let's talk about... Wait, there was one other thing. CLG posted a back to LCS vid on their Twitter, and then I guess they deleted it.
Wait, what did they post?
CLG did?
So they're on the CLG subreddit. It says, anyone else see the back to LCS summer video CLG put out of a team meeting yesterday? I think they deleted it after, not sure why. Maybe because the person dropped in and it wasn't announced beforehand, but the vid was edited, so I don't know. And then people in the comments are saying like, oh yeah, looks like there's no roster changes, and I guess there was a miscommunication and it was posted too early, but yeah, it sounds like they're not making changes based off of, I guess, this video they accidentally posted, unless it's all part of their brilliant plan to mislead people.
Yes, troll the audience in off-season time. No one wants that, honestly. No one wants that.
By the way, somebody in Twitch chat was asking for a referral code for Draft Buff, which you can use Travis Gafford. That's my name. Easy. All right. Mark, how about you? How you been this past week?
Didn't we just cover that?
We talked about what Raz did.
No, we talked
your
about my
spill.
computer.
You went on a trip.
Oh, it wasn't a trip. My anniversary with my girlfriend was on Sunday, so we drove up PCH. I guess it's probably a little illegal, but you know, like whatever. Like all the beaches, people like have social distancing stuff. So, like they weren't super crowded, but you still had to like walk pretty far with all your shit, and we didn't want to do that and stuff. And so instead of doing that, we drove until there was like a parking spot and like an overhang, like overlook area, and then we kind of just walked out there with our chairs and set those up on a part of land and was looking out over the ocean. It was really beautiful. It was incredible. But I don't think I was supposed to be there. We had wine and cheese. And it was kind of like a picnic. It was great.
Yeah, that, okay. Well,
That was
that's
my. You glad I told that story? You glad you brought that up?
the
Now?
Yeah, we're recording the
illegality
drops
of it
now.
is something I was surprised that you
Yeah.
brought up.
Oh, I'm not gonna hide it. I don't think I'm not saying people go drive up PCH and like hope the cops don't see you fucking hauling your lawn chairs out into a random stretch of cliff. Not good advice. Do as I say, not as I do.
Let's get into the show. And because we're late, maybe we could just go straight into calls. Mark, do you want to explain how we haven't done like the call explanation in a bit. We're doing this on a Wednesday instead of a Monday, so maybe
there's some new faces here. If it's your first time, this is a live call-in show. I'm spamming Twitch chat with V's and it's supposed to be the Discord. Go ahead and join up. When you get there, you're gonna go and join one of the voice channels, Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2. You're going to hang out there. You can mute yourself because you're going to post your topics and your takes into the text channel above called Pleb Topics. If I like what you're saying, if I'm interested in what you want to talk about, I'll pull you from that Pleb Calls voice channel down into the waiting room where you will hang out until it's your turn. When it is your turn, I'll do a quick mic check with you to make sure everything's working, and then I'll go and pull you into the on-air room to talk with us about whatever it is you want to talk about.
Do you have any honey?
You're going to eat during the show, dude? You have all day. There's a 2-hour window.
Look at him.
I did another show right before this.
Hi, Mark.
Eat during that show. No one cares about that
Did you hear
show.
Kobe yell hi, Mark?
Hi, Raz.
Oh, hey, Kobe.
Yeah, he's very excited to see you guys.
Hi, Mark, but no hi, Raz. Feels bad, man.
He just said hi, Raz, at the end. You didn't hear
I
him?
didn't hear that.
Yeah, it didn't. That's why he came back and yelled it again.
I'm going to get
there
a
we go.
caller.
Much love.
Okay, Mark's off to grab a caller. I want to give some shout outs to Red Rain, Final Fantasy 14. I shouted out a ton of people before the show, but just in case. Hill, Ronald and Ho, Gloaters. Jeffy gifted 10 subs, very generous. I don't know why everybody's been so generous with the gifting, but I appreciate it. Ryan Source 33 and Fenron Jenkins gifted another 5. We have a call, I've been informed. We got Dr. Manhattan returning to the show. Dr. Manhattan, you still in DC?
Yes, I am.
Nice. How are you doing in DC?
Not too bad. It's been okay over here. It's been okay.
Nice. Well, welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about on the show?
This is something I kind of wanted to talk about during the TSM Dardock Lena episode, but I think I wanted to wait till it cooled down a bit more, so then we can just kind of take a better look at it. But I think that Dardock landing on Dig was pretty much objectively the only good place he could land on as a player.
Why do you say
I probably agree, and I'd like to hear your reasoning.
Actually, this is something that I actually kind of did a video on, like right around the time of this whole news breaking out. And I wanted to separate the drama from it, and I was looking at every team that, like, that I looked at every team and their jungler, and I was thinking, like, how many teams would really want Dardock outside of TSM, obviously, because they have him already. And first of all, I didn't think any of the playoff teams that made it last spring would genuinely want to take Dardock over their current jungler. So Cloud9, why would they take him? EG, Svenskeren is better, objectively. Same thing with Golden Guardians, FlyQuest. You can kind of make a debate for maybe, but I would lean towards no for him going on 100 Thieves. I don't think he'd be. I would say the main problem with CLG is didn't they already try him like years ago? And then that didn't work out, and they're now in even worse state than when he joined at that point. So would he genuinely want to go there, or would they? I don't think
he has very many options on where he wants to go now.
Yeah, that's true, but it's just and they kind of. I would say CLG is more so just kind of sleeping in their bed in the sense of they committed to Wiggly after last summer, and it's
Minnesota style. You can't just ditch Minnesota style.
Yeah, and then you look at Immortals. Same thing. They dropped a bunch on Smithy, and Smithy I don't think was the problem with that team. I think there's greater problems. And Team Liquid is not. What?
The rumor is Smithy's benched.
Oh,
this is not. I'm not reporting on anything. All right, this is not.
No, this is an official Travis
Gafford
report.
Multiple sources.
I'm just saying. Reddit doesn't see you as a journalist, so it makes a lot of sense. I can understand it.
Yeah, there is no such thing as an official Travis Gafford report.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Team Liquid, it's just one obviously bad. I would say somewhat bad blood on there, just from the outside looking in. And also, it's not really fair to bench Broxo over half a split. when it wasn't really his fault with the whole visa thing. And the reason I say Dig is because we heard that they got rid of Greg, and now he's on TL Academy, and there was an open spot there. So it was like, I think objectively speaking, this was the best place for him to land on, and the only place for him to land on.
I mean, I don't disagree with this take much at all. Like, you know what you're saying about which teams in playoffs would have wanted a potential upgrade if you even think of Dardoch as an upgrade. I mean, that's up for debate as well. But just in general, like, none of those teams really have easy openings for him to go. Like, I don't know. Meteos wasn't great that split, but I don't think Dardoch was either. And we already saw Meteos beat him out at Optic for this position, last year, I think it was. So yeah, I don't think there were any moves into the playoffs for him. Dig feels like with some of the changes going on with Acadian and Grig that it makes sense that he'd end up there.
Okay. Is this our Dardoch call?
Oh,
Is it
Sure.
Is it too late or is it too early to say Dig is just a dumpster fire?
I don't think so.
I said that like week 5. Like it's just.
I just like. I mean, it's one thing whenever it's like week 5 and they're not performing, but I just like the changes they made. Like they made it to Worlds last year off of this like fresh, young, hype lineup. Not entirely, but you know what I mean. And then they go out, they spend a ton of money, they trade players to Cloud9, they do all this stuff, and now like it's ironic in that you would have thought
It's like
Clutch-
10,000 forks
What?
or knives. Sorry.
oh,
The Atlanta Morris.
Oh, great. You would have thought like, okay, they've acquired Clutch, and Clutch just kind of like lingered in the LCS, and they've got all this backing. They're doing all this stuff. It seems really exciting. But this would be, the hype train coming in. But it's just like this Dignitas kind of feels like the old Dignitas in that they're just here being weird.
Yeah. I don't know what their like plan is. I kind of get that they swung for the fences in spring a little bit with that lineup. I think a lot of people were kind of hesitant on that working out very well, and it didn't. So it wasn't like a dumpster fire. They were 8-10, but it definitely didn't seem like it was getting better over time. They were on a pretty massive, kind of slide towards the back half of the split. So I understand the like fire sale, get rid of everything. It didn't work. Just field a roster, any roster. Who wants to play? And then they're going to hopefully take another swing next year. In that sense, I don't hate it, but it is, to your point, it does seem to lack vision beyond like throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks a little bit. When you had Vulcan last split and Cody, and I mean, yeah, maybe you didn't want Lyra, maybe you want an upgrade mid if you didn't have that much faith in DeMonte, whatever. But it didn't seem like anything really was a game plan.
I'm not too sure what their LCS roster would look like. Like I don't know what their final, team looks like and all that. But yeah, everyone had questions of like what their team building thought process was. Seems like they got an amalgamation of players that they thought were really skillful, regardless of how they viewed the game, and then just rolled with it, right? Like that was the perception. It felt like they just got players who they thought were really good. But like Froggen and Hooney just seemed like the most polar opposite in how they viewed the game, and I'm not sure if that played into it, but that's definitely what it seemed like. So I wouldn't say they're a dumpster fire. I think my take overall for this team is that like I think Viper is a great decision. I don't know who would start between Acadian and like Dardoch, and who would go to Academy. I think that would be my first question. And then you're like to the original caller's point, best team to land on, I would agree, because like it's a combination of where he would want to go and at the same time like what team is also looking, because CLG is like he wouldn't want to go on CLG. All right, that team doesn't seem to be the strongest, but they would be definitely looking for a jungler. So Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a good point.
We have a lot of people in Twitch, or excuse me, the Discord were like, Dig is not a dumpster fire. So, Dr. Manhattan, what do you think of Dignitas before I potentially grab another caller? Because you said this is good for Dardoch. What's your opinion on it for Dignitas before I get someone else in here?
It could be it could like be something that maybe adds a bit of, for lack of a better term, substance to the team. But it just seems like you were saying earlier, it just seems like I always like to bring back this old Reginald quote that he once said, which is five players doing five different things right is worse than five players doing one thing wrong. And it seems like they all have their own different direction, and I don't even think Dardoch is the kind of person to kind of straighten out like the direction they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
And Viper isn't really the strongest laner. I mean, could he be an upgrade from Huni? I mean, I wouldn't bet against that. You know, I mean, Huni was, for my money, probably the worst top laner in the league. The question, I would say, the big question is, I mean, I think he has experience with Aphromus, so that's maybe something we can consider. But I mean, I'm not sure how good on terms they are. And again, it just seems like they're just fundamentally their playstyles are just so different from each other.
Okay. So you're more on the negative side. We'll have a positive caller coming next, Travis.
And do we have any
Ooh,
other
there we go.
Dardoch calls, you think?
I mean, there's a bunch of people who are like, Dardoch is last chance, or Dardoch pops off this split. There's some general Dardoch takes.
Maybe we should. I mean, I think it would be nice to have a reflection of him on TSM, unless you just want to have that conversation now.
We can just have it now before we move more onto the
Man,
dig angle there.
it is so funny that he was there for 3 months. Like, because I think, you know, I interviewed Parth, and I think that was the interview that was Travis Gafford doesn't know how to interview.
Yeah, that
So
was
in
the
the-
interview.
In that interview that I didn't know what I was doing,
It was more of a conversation.
I pressed Parth.
You should retitle all your interviews to a conversation with.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to have any journalistic integrity.
I don't have it.
You're just having a conversation. Yeah.
I pressed Parth on the issue of like, hey, is Dardoch, you know, whatever, and it was like, oh, you know, we've done all this stuff to help make sure that Dardoch's ready and that this environment is ready for him, and
Yeah.
this whole conversation around like, for years it felt like this was Dardoch was always going to be here. Like, I remember Mark, you even said that this felt inevitable, and so it's just, it's like crazy to me that this like Dardoch to TSM story lasted such a short period of time. And I get that like this is kind of Dardoch's thing, is that he goes somewhere and then doesn't stay there very long, but like it's kind of hilarious. I think, you know, in if it wasn't for all the double F stuff, this would be considered such a hilarious thing and like would occupy so much conversation that like they picked him up, made all this stuff about how it's going to be fine, and then it just
But-
clearly wasn't.
Is it a Dardoch thing or is it a TSM thing?
A little bit
I
of
know
column
it's
A, a little bit of
yeah,
column
I mean,
B.
Yeah.
You have the guy
Yeah,
that can't
I would say
last
that as well.
anywhere on the team that can't keep a jungler, and it's ultimately unsurprising. It's just still hilarious.
The thing with TSM is that I feel like TSM has a very solo queue blame game mentality of junglers.
Mm-hmm.
They're always searching for a perfect jungler, but the realization is like, the reality is like, at least at the level that they were getting, like the Svenskarians of the world and everything, was like, that was a great jungler, you just have to work around him. Like Blabber literally won LCS, and it was literally a team that understood his playstyle and worked around him. Like that, to me, it was I don't know when they'll figure that out. Maybe it's the next 3 months, or the 3 months after that, or like maybe 2020. You know, it's at some point they're gonna accept the jungler's quirks and this work with him.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was interesting was Dardoch's quirks and who he was. Like, I think a lot of the Dardoch to TSM, like dreaming and fantasizing that happened was like more old Dardoch, like 2016, 2017, even a bit of 2018 Dardoch. But 2019 Dardoch was not really on the grid. Like, he couldn't win his spot over Meteos. He had some great games, but he was pretty hit or miss. And then like when he played in Academy in summer, whether it was due to motivation loss or not working well with his teammates or whatever, he wasn't super impressive in Academy. And so I think people, when they heard him going to TSM, were like, oh shit, it's going to be like 2018 Dardoch again. And it was more 2019 Dardoch. Now, I'm sure some of this is the TSM jungle environment not helping him shine or whatever, but it definitely, he had some good games again. He always has some pop off ass games, but it was not super like old school Dardoch 1v9 for the most part. So, it wasn't like this experiment happened. I guess what I'm saying is this didn't happen in like peak Dardoch form or anything like that.
I just, I think it's really interesting, the idea that I'm buzzing somebody into my apartment building right now, and hopefully they're not here to murder me. I just think it's really interesting, this idea that, like, I don't know. I just wonder if Dardoch will just always persist. Like, at what point in time does he run out of
I was
options?
actually going to say that. It was like, I think this is genuinely like, I when I heard him going to TSM, in my mind, I was thinking, I think this was probably the last spot or chance he had to go to be on a top team. And after this, I would be surprised if you see him on like a stacked roster ever again.
Okay, last question, because I know we've gone really long on this, but do you guys think... what's interesting to me about this is, clearly there were issues. Did they show up in any of the TSM content? Because I think that's also kind of like, this confirms to me that TSM content is, well crafted by the people creating it, is it's expertly curated. I don't think that we need to have a breaking point type thing, but I do think it's kind of weird where like, we're going to let you see behind the scenes of what it's like for this team. And then it turns out that like, there were clearly issues that were just not.
What is
really...
that called? Like ADB or ABD or it's like a dubbing that you do in movies where like they want to change a character's line or something, and like they'll like just put the line over it. ADR, yeah. And like, so whenever that person's face like isn't on camera, like if it's a shot over here, they'll use this shot and they'll just put a new line in. I feel like that's what was happening. They're just dubbing over Dardoch with other lines.
Hey, great job, Soren. I don't know. I just think I feel like the fact that TSM fans didn't know that there were issues, it's somewhat of a discredit to the content, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I can understand teams being like, hey, let's not put public pressure on our players when we're still trying to improve and win. I can understand that mindset. And then after the fact feels like a breaking point kind of thing where you just drop a nuke on a player. So...
yeah, it's definitely night and day of old TSM content that kind of felt like more of a reality television vibe. And I mean, that's good for the players. So, but it's terrible for trying to figure out what the hell happened. It's like,
yeah,
it's like, what are you watching at that point in time, right? Like, what are these interviews if people are not saying what's actually going on? I don't know.
Well, the content's just fanfare. I mean, that's like the purpose behind it. If you're a fan of the team, you do want to just see the personalities of the team.
You want to see them eat bananas for the 8th year in a row.
There we go. You want that stuff.
Yeah.
You want that Schmerda vibe. I like, honestly, like, I think, yeah, I don't know. That's why it's so hard to kind of talk about the whole, Dardoch thing of what was the reason for his move anyways. But at the end of the day, I felt like TSM took this risk knowing this entire, knowing exactly what was going to happen. Like, not, or at least, like, what they were bringing on, the risk behind it. And it felt like, okay, if they're taking that on, it felt like there was a bit of self-reflection being done and that they would stick with it throughout the year. And it is so far off the plot because not only have they moved jungle, they've also moved AD, with some debate behind that as well. Like, they just didn't really care for it. So for me, that was probably the biggest surprise. So we're back on the jungle train.
Well, Dr. Manhattan, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to say before we move on?
No, thank you guys for having me here once again. Actually, funny enough, drinking a Game Fuel right now, so shout out to Game Fuel, if that's even a possibility still.
Yes. I mean, they don't sponsor me, but I think...
this is like...
I think they sent me some, because they said they were going to send me some, and I got a box, but it wasn't marked or like anything, it was just from Amazon, so I don't know if they just like ordered it. But either way, shout out to Game Fuel. They don't sponsor me, but I hope someday they will.
It's going to be like Tidy Cats all over again. We're going to do this whole thing for them, and we're not going to get shit.
Well, again, I think they sent me some product, and they have actually been
They haven't
talking
given
to
me shit.
I'm talking to their...
They're still sending you stuff?
Yeah, do you want some, Mark? I can share some.
Yeah, of course. Do you think I want to pay for this garbage that doesn't pay me to say that this isn't garbage?
I bet you're on the topic of tidy cats. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, that too. I never got anything from Tidy Cats either.
All right.
All right. Dr. Manhattan, thanks for the call, though.
Appreciate it.
Raz, can you fill? Because somebody showed up at my front door and I need to investigate.
Oh no, is this all right?
Just
we
fill
got a
time.
problem here, Mark.
I shouldn't get the next caller then.
Go get the
leave
next
you
caller,
alone.
Raz is gonna
get
fill
the
time.
next caller because I'm about to talk about a story of what could happen as Travis walks out, opens the door at gunpoint. Oh no, Travis, the hell are you gonna do now? You have a show that you're supposed to do.
We're
Now
back.
You gotta what?
We're back with a caller. Ghost Han coming in. I don't know what you were saying. So
I was about to make Travis a hero. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just gonna have to continue this at a later date.
you can just put it on Twitter.
All right.
Whatever this fan fiction is.
Okay. We'll see.
Ghost Han, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York City.
New York.
Hey.
Yeah.
When Travis
It
would
was
ask,
just
"How's
a
New
box
York?"
for Kobe.
Mark
Well,
asked.
the last 2 times I've been on this show, he has asked me, "How's New York doing?" And I'm
Yeah.
always like,
Not well.
as well as it. Well, right now actually we're improving a lot, but
Okay.
Hey, Ghost Han is here.
still not well. Hello.
Hey, we're already doing all this. You can
We're
stop.
doing it for you. You don't have
Ghost
Dude,
to.
actually
Han, what do you
better
want to talk
without
about
you
on the
here.
show?
I am here to talk about how Dignitas is not going to be a dumpster fire, and how they have a lot of talent and they have a lot of versatility in their roster, and I do actually think that they have a vision moving forward.
Do you think they had a vision before? Also, do
well,
we know what their finalized starting lineup is?
No, and I
They're-
think that's the best part.
Acadian had a part in his stream where he said that they are doing tryouts essentially for trying to find the best 5 players this week or next week or week. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that type of thing, I think, is the best part about the whole Dig situation, because their academy roster and their main roster has a lot of versatility. Like Dardoch and its Cadian fighting for a spot, Lorlo and Viper fighting for a spot, Demonte and Frog and Lesso fighting for a spot, and Johnson and Phoenix less so. But also then we have Afro and Ole. So I do think that Dignitas has a lot of room to experiment, especially now that they've been unshackled from the Hooney scenario after Hooney basically, I'm just gonna say, scammed them, because he did not perform well at all last split.
I don't know if you scammed them. That's a pretty big citation needed, but okay. Mark, what's your take? I don't even know where to start on this because it's just they just have a lot of players. They're going to swap them all around. They're going to be not a dumpster fire.
Well, I mean, so Ghost Han, you said in your take when you posted it that I really think they can win it all.
Yeah,
About Dignitas. Do you stand by that statement?
I do, because I think at the end of the day, I don't know who said it earlier, but there was a lot of misplays between Hooney and Froggen in terms of mentality, right? So
Sure.
I think Johnson, as a rookie, did phenomenally well, and I think people tend to forget how well Dig did at the beginning of the split. And when Acadian came in and fixed their whole jungle situation, they did really well. And sadly, it was too late at that point. But Acadian really tried, and there was a huge glimmer of hope there on the roster. So I do think that they have an opportunity to really take everything next split.
Raz and Mark, is Johnson the only one who's safe?
I bet Froggen's safe. I would say those two maybe. Ole can come up now from Academy if they want to use him instead of Afro. But I don't know if that's necessarily a huge upgrade or anything like that.
Phoenix is a good AB, but I mean, really depends on what they're doing, and I have no idea. And also, the idea of the versatility part. I mean, when is the split starting? In about 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So it's summer split too. That actually matters. If this was a spring split where you're kind of doing the whole chain, everyone's changing places in spring, I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. It's a long year ahead of you. So just try out anything, man. Even just roll out any comp you want, right? Figure out your team identity. I think Yeah, I think Dig has like they all have great players. I mean, they have good players on their team, and if to the point about an improvement, like yeah, I think the team building was an issue in Spring Split, and it seems like bringing in Viper and maybe using bringing in Viper as an idea is already great. I like the idea of using Viper. I think giving a person a second chance while putting fire behind him with Lorlo is the right idea. I just hope that they have they're on an actual path. Because the dangerous thing is that anyone can be interchangeable, and so they do that whole thing throughout the split, and then guess what? They're just bad because
Well, yeah,
no one
because
makes sense.
they could just TSM jungle themselves at that point, right?
No, TSM actually waits a split. TSM, like
They give him,
they give him time on stage for a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think we'll see what it ends up turning into. I'm not a huge pessimist because I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'll be the huge pessimist.
Go for it. I need to hear it.
All right. So you said that they got some great players or good players. I mean, let's be honest. They don't have probably a single top 5 player in any position in the league currently. I wouldn't say that. They don't have a single one in the top 5. They could develop synergy. I could see this roster actually being better than their previous roster. In terms of number of wins or something. Johnson top 5.
Yeah. Johnson could be
He was okay. I mean, Cody, Sven, Double Lift will be better. Let me think. Who else? It wasn't the stack.
You think he's better than
Turtle?
Kabe?
No, Kabe will be better. Turtle will be better. Bang's better. Yep. Like he's behind a bunch of people probably. Kabe's not in the lead right now, but
how far are those gaps between the players?
Last
though?
He was behind Kabe. I mean, it's not huge, but my point is they don't have a stud. They don't have Froggen is your closest thing to we're gonna play around this guy player.
I think Dig as a franchise is definitely trying to build Johnson to be that stud.
Yeah, you can
do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah, so he was not top 5 last split. I don't think he's gonna be top 5 this split. I don't see how this is going to be a great roster. I don't know what their play style is. And like I said, I agree that there were some synergy problems last time, but that just because you get rid of a friction point doesn't mean it's suddenly it gets replaced by something better.
They also just have a ton of players who I think have been problematic, right? Like who on that team do you look at and you go oh, that's a player who's really shown up on a different team they were on before.
These guys don't have any problems. Really, Viper has one.
Froggen, right?
Froggen has made playoffs once and has won a best of 5 in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, okay,
I did not know that stat.
People hype Froggen up a lot, and then
Viper can play one champion. Dardoch is totally hit or miss. Acadian's pretty much the same way. Afro hasn't been the stud support since CLG and maybe a bit of 100 Thieves as well. He has the moments still, but he also sometimes does terribly. Johnson is a good mechanical player who has a lot of future potential, but it's not there right now. So
the other thing is I hate it when people call in and talk about oh, this team has a lot of hunger. But maybe it's okay to say I'm not sure if this team has a lot of hunger. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I feel about the Dig team, where I just don't look at that and be now there's 5 people really hungry to go to Worlds and really show up. You know what I mean? It feels as though a lot of those players have stuff to prove.
Yep.
And have maybe for a while and haven't been able to. And so I'm not going to come out here and say oh, these guys are all washed, they're terrible or whatever. But it's Froggen is a great example where we've criticized Froggen on this show. Not every show criticizes him for some reason, but we've criticized him on this show and said he has a lot to prove for years now. And I know Froggen from back in the CLG EU days, whenever that guy would just grind League of Legends and would just dominate his opponents. And he has shown some really great games before, but I don't think that there's been a split recently where it's man, Froggen just really turned it on, right? And that's how I feel with so many of those players, right?
So can that turn the pressure on to DeMonte to just replace him then?
So I'll start off by saying I actually think Froggen's playing well. Like I don't think.
So let me. But before you get into that, let me just say,
go for it.
My criticism of Froggen is never about him not being like a good player. It's just that like I have to keep in mind who I'm arguing against, and it's like people who believe he's a top 3 mid laner in the league right now, and that's what I'm arguing against. He's not. That's my only point. Not that he's not good or anything, because I don't think you have to be top 3 to be good. But I'm just saying, like, he's not a top 3 mid laner, so you can't rely on him necessarily to beat the majority of the competition that he's going to play against, and therefore be this consistent win condition. Quite like you can maybe do that with Niski, or even Jizuke sometimes, and some other options. So that's all I'm saying.
So I want to actually kind of counter the point that Travis made about like hunger. Just because whenever you have a team that is picking up players that, of course, had former glory, like not even like far past. I'm not talking about Froggen actually, because Froggen I think is still playing well. It's more of a question about like Viper, who has been a top 3 top laner previously in the LCS, right? So he's had that glory and has only really fallen off like last split. Like I think that's literally it, where people didn't regard him as a strong top laner. And people have bad splits and, get humbled. I do think that coming back in, do I have faith that he'll come back as a top 5 top laner? Yeah, I do. For sure I do. Because I believe that skill is not something that you lose necessarily. And if you do, because of whatever distractions come, you can regain that. So I do think that Viper for sure can. Acadian or Dardoch, I mean, that's always a big question mark. But, like, these are players that I think that can be there. It's only a question of, like, once again, team building, direction, all of these things that I feel as though was a missed point in Spring Split.
But it's not just like Viper, because people use Lorlo as an example of like, oh, they've got Lorlo, right, who can put pressure on Viper. Can he? Like, I think I'm just addressing the caller's point, which is like, wow, look at all the different players that they have that they can access. And I'm saying if you look at a lot of those players, like, yes, like you've got a Johnson who looks fantastic. It's a weird way to say that sentence. You've got other players that look great, but it's or look like they have a lot of potential. It's just like I don't look at that and go, oh, this is all gonna come together in like this great way. I do think, by the way, that here's my prediction for Dignitas, because this is like they're the exact team that does this type of thing.
All right.
They will have a large win streak at some point in time, and people will go. And I think I might have predicted this. I don't know if I did it on Hotline, but I definitely did it somewhere. They will have some big win streak, and people will be like, "Wow, look at them! Look, this team's doing great." And then at some point in time, they're going to have some big drop off. And what do you want? What? Honey? Okay. Oh, now you want the honey.
Hey, Kobe. What do you think of Dignitas now?
Now that they have Dardoch?
Just and Viper.
Dardoch, Viper,
Lorlo, Acadian.
I think it's very suspicious that they're just picking up all the old TSM junglers that have already left TSM in the same order. Something's going on here.
Do you think they make playoffs?
Conspiracy theory?
Oh, he didn't go.
I don't know what he just did, but
The trick here is that most of the LCS just have former TSM junglers. So that's the reality. Once again, the solo queue blame game of junglers is a thing here.
I think we haven't talked about ThinkCard though, like that much, because I ThinkCard, what he did for when Dig was clutch was huge, right? He helped get them to Worlds, right? Obviously the roster's different, but he came in and really the team everyone thought would be one of the worst teams rose to the occasion, almost beat TL in playoffs, and I think ThinkCard out of anyone could really make this roster work.
So I like ThinkCard a lot, and I think he's had some good results. The other people who did really well at Clutch are now at Evil Geniuses. So,
like,
for instance,
like
their
Artemis.
their GM, Artemis, others, right? And so that's for me part of it too, is that they've had even like a top end talent drain from the coaching and management side.
Yeah, and I think ThinkCard can be good, but I just can't see. I don't think this roster is better than Dig was, or excuse me, Clutch was. But who knows? Maybe we're wrong. Like I said, I don't think this team. When I said dumpster fire before, I was more talking about like the like plan, like the 2-year plan, looked like a dumpster fire where you sell off all your young talent, bring in big names that don't work out, and then you get rid of the big names you just signed. More so than that this roster is guaranteed to be a dumpster fire. I'm not pegging them for 10th place. I'm not saying they can't make playoffs. I mean, they barely didn't make it behind Golden Guardians this split. And
You
I could
only
see,
need
like
to get
I said,
8th.
yeah, I could see them making playoffs. My point is just like, there's no way they're winning the split. There's no way they're contesting for that. And I don't think there's any way they're contesting for
I think
Worlds either.
negative win-loss ratio at the end of summer split.
they get to 9-9, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. It seemed like we're going to go 7-11 again.
Maybe they'll have a positive if they, or neutral if they. Well, I can't be neutral, but maybe they'll have a positive if they win a tiebreaker or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Immortals will get 8 again either. Like there's a bunch of those things too. I think.
Yeah, I think when people are talking train wreck, they're usually talking about like decision-making process behind the scenes rather than the team that's currently performing. Unless if they're literally expecting them to be a top 3 or top 4 team, then yeah, it's catastrophic.
Ton, have we shaken your confidence?
There you go.
I would say a little bit you have shaken my confidence, but I think that's the magic of LCS in general, where
you never know.
You never know. And I personally would rather be blindly optimistic for this team, or just optimistic for this team, because it would be great to see all these players do well. And I do really want that good Acadian story. I want that good Dardoch story, even though we really can't have both. I want that good Viper story. Like, I think that all these players do deserve that time, especially the ones that have been waiting and grinding, and like their skill level's still there, right? So I do think
they've
that
definitely
this split
picked up the
there.
players, like the veteran players that people liked, and want to see do well. Like they've got Froggen and Aphromoo and players like that where people are like, oh come on, like they should be able to do this. Demonte. So I definitely think that they're the team for dreamers. The other I don't know. And by the way, you mentioned it's LCS, you never know. What the hell? LCS is the same thing. Guess what we're going to do for Worlds?
Team Liquid did terribly last split. And
what do you mean it's the same thing? C9 won for the first time in 6 years.
Yeah, and they made it to final. For Worlds, we'll send 2 teams from the pool of TSM,
TSM
C9,
hasn't made
or
a finals
TL.
in 3 splits.
Yeah,
they did last year.
Golden Guardians made playoffs when everyone said they were a 10th place team.
Yeah, what do you mean the same thing happens every year? I said they were a 10th place team.
Finals always has like C9, TL, or TSM in it. We'll send 2
finals
teams.
Last split had FlyQuest.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Jesus.
Come on, what?
You always have TSM, C9, or TL in the finals. Oftentimes 2 of the 3. We will send to Worlds this year if Worlds happens. 2 of them will be C9, TSM, or TL.
Dude, this is like fucking palm reading, where you're just saying general things that, of course, are going to be true. Like, at some point, this line on your hand says you're going to die. Holy shit, how'd you know?
That's not true at all. Death is an inevitability. You're suggesting
NA not doing well at Worlds isn't an...
You're saying that us sending 2 of 3 teams consistently to Worlds every single year is as inevitable as death, and then you're telling me that the LCS is not consistent in its results.
All right, maybe a little hyperbolic, but your statements are just so obviously generally going to be true.
You know what was hilarious? Because I thought we were on the same page here, the same wavelength. Because it was like, oh, LCS is going to be the same. I thought we were talking about the soup that always happens in the splits. You're going to say like a team's going to be awful, and then you realize like 6 teams have the same chance of making it into playoff. And you're like, I actually have no idea what.
Golden Guardians will either barely make it into playoffs or barely miss playoffs. That always happens.
We'll barely win the LCS. How about that?
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to it. I think that's going to be sick.
Let's keep the theme going here.
Yeah.
So this split, the Universal 10th place team actually made playoffs. The Universal number 1 team got 9th. The team that hadn't won in 6 years finally won. But nothing new happened. FlyQuest somehow made an interesting brand out of nowhere.
The FlyQuest thing is the first thing you've said to me that is actually exciting. EG is the new team and got
second. EG, the new team
100
getting
Thieves
second.
did really well on their first split too.
But it's a new Jeez.
I just new teams getting second isn't actually. Anyway, and they didn't.
And Dignitas, the other new team, or were
They
they
didn't
not
get-
new because they're Dignitas?
They're not. Dignitas has always been Dignitas.
Okay.
Ghost Han, thank you for the call.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
being really slow on these. I don't know why, but I appreciate the call.
It's a slow week,
no worries.
honestly. All things.
Um,
considered.
All right, we're gonna
You
take a
just
quick.
fucking booted him.
Yeah, well, I start to activate the transfer, and then yeah.
Any
Brutal.
final words is old Travis. New Travis is get the hell out of my show.
I've had enough
Fine.
of your shit.
I'll bring him back. He's still here. Oh, he's still talking.
He's still talking.
Ghost Han. Do you have-
What? What the
sorry,
hell?
sorry, Ghost Han. For some reason, there was a connection issue. Do you have anything that you want to say here at the end?
Stay safe, and I really hope you get that mountain.
You kicked him out again, Travis?
I didn't kick him. You kicked him.
I
Where's
know.
the decorum?
Ghost Han, finish your thing, Mark. Mark, I've now realized who kicked you the first time. It was
No,
Mark.
that
'cause
was
he
you the first time,
kicked
dude.
you
Come
the
on.
second time.
We love you.
Oh, okay. All right. Stay safe. I hope you get a Mountain Dew sponsorship. Banish me forever now.
Thank you.
No, that's what you should talk Travis.
Permaband.
Let's take a quick ad break. Let's all calm down. We need to take a quick reset. Talk about Alienware. This past week, Mark spilled liquid. I assume it was water. Was it
Yeah,
water?
it was water.
On his. I don't think you're supposed to show that, Raz.
I know what you're talking about.
On
So what? We're
his.
in an advertisement break. Go.
You're not supposed to show your badge on stream.
It's an old one. It's from 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably fine then.
Also, there's no badges being used. Anyway, we're in an ad break. Everyone, please get it together. This week, Mark spilled water on his Alienware computer, but you might notice he's still doing great. And that's because of how great Alienware computers are built. Now, I'm not saying they are water resistant at all. Please do not spill water on your computer and then take your issue up with me. I'm just saying it's pretty remarkable that that everything worked out okay. I've got an Alienware PC behind me right now, actually, and one in front of me. And they actually just announced a bunch of new stuff, updates to their systems, their tower systems, the Auroras, as well as both of their laptop lines, the M15, M17, and Area 51M. You can go check that out over at alienware.com/Travis and use Travis10 off to save 10%. And I really appreciate that so many people have done this. Actually, we're working. We're going to pull the veil back, but I have a meeting tomorrow with Alienware where we're going to be discussing, let's take a look at the first quarter of this, the sponsorship, and because their quarter starts in February. And it's kind of spooky, right? Because with all the big changes happening around the world, what's the numbers going to look like? What's the engagement going to look like? But I can tell you the numbers look great, and I feel really confident going into tomorrow's meeting. And that's because you guys have done such a great job of supporting us, engaging with their brand on social media whenever I tweet about them and stuff. So either way, I just deeply want to thank everyone for their involvement in doing that. And I've got a ton of tweets, by the way, that I get to show them of people tweeting at me and at Alienware saying they bought this new Alienware system. Again, at alienware.com/Travis. I'll put that link in the chat right now, and it's also in the video description if you're watching on YouTube. Be sure to use Travis10 off whenever you buy one of their new systems over there. Thanks so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. All right.
Thank you.
On to the next caller.
Alrighty.
Catching up on some subs, by the way. Thank you, Quantum Monk, for 22 months. Rico Suave for 25. Ronky Dong. Fenron Jenkins, who's been around for 28 months. Thank you. Poller the Baller. Great name.
That's really damn good.
Ostel Manly Puppet. Aldor. TJRL. And Merchant of Soul for a whole year. Thank you all to all the subs. And Ghost Hunt just converted over to a Tier 1 sub. That's awesome. Thank you, Ghost Hunt. Even though Mark kicked you out of the call, that's shocking that you would still commit to this show. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone. We're down to 924 subs. Last month we were at like 1,400, 1,500. So I am streaming less. I think that's part of it. But if anybody wants to sub, very appreciated. Mark is taking a while to get this thing going. So you don't like the quarantine, Raz, but you I thought you like staying in and not going out.
No, I'm actually like I actually do appreciate going out once in a while. You know, I do find myself stuck in my own house for a little bit, but a lot of the times going out, seeing people, going to coffee shops, I enjoy that. I can't do that. I went to Starbucks and guess what happened? They just handed my coffee and told me to get the hell out of there. I don't. I'm just saying.
I mean, I think that's probably the right move right now. Saronic
It
is here.
Probably the correct move.
Saronic, where are you calling from?
San Diego.
San Diego, my
Yeah.
hometown.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in San Diego? Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah, it's fine. Chula Vista.
Oh, nice. My family's actually from there. Either way, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so the most crucial TSM signing is actually never going to be announced, and that's Viger V2.
What?
Okay.
Explain for
yeah.
for
Sorry.
Travis and the uninitiated in Twitch
course.
chat.
So Wulu, I don't know if you know him, but he's the one that does all the transfers and all the rumors about LCS, and you can pull up his Twitter and stuff like that. He recently tweeted about Vigar V2 going to TSM.
What's his
But there's
Twitter?
more
This
to
is
that,
like a
though.
random person who just tweets rumors? An anonymous
He's actually
Twitter
pretty
account?
correct. He's actually pretty correct on a lot of his things, but yeah, you can.
Oh, I thought you had a. I thought this was a more significant source when you said this.
There's more though. Vigar V2 is getting followed and being followed by a lot of people on TSM, even their sports psychologists. Like it's usually players that usually meme around things.
So this
And
is a
also
former Fnatic analyst.
Yes,
Okay.
but he's never going to be announced because of the controversy. That
Oh,
he has with-
LEC Wulu on Twitter. I hate promoting this like
Yeah,
anonymous
you-
accounts, but
Yeah.
okay. And it's Vagar, by the way.
But yeah, oh Vigar. Okay, sorry.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
Okay, you know this guy's name.
Yes.
Maybe he pronounces it differently.
Vagar is the reason I got into League of Legends in the first place. He used to work at Riot.
Right, but that was that name. This could be a different name spelled the same way.
It's not. Anyway, sorry. Continue, Saronic.
So Vagar. Okay, thank you for educating me on that. I appreciate that. But anyways, he made Karthus funnel, and also he did Yumi Garen bot for Fnatic. Like he came up with those creative strategies.
Yeah, he's been a high rated player for a long time. Very controversial, which is why if he did get hired by TSM, they probably would never announce it.
Yeah, TSM doesn't have to announce their coaching staff if he's not a head coach. I believe, right? There's no rule or something like that.
No,
Yeah, but if he's not
you
an
need
official team member, then he's not listed on any Riot
Yeah.
documentation or anything like that, so it's fine. Anyway, continue.
So that's basically all. I think that's going to be the biggest signing that TSM's actually going to, and we'll see that improve in the actual games, in my opinion, for that.
Okay. So I was unfamiliar with this person. Mark, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think the thing is, I don't know how influential it'll be because the problems that TSM faces don't feel, necessarily strategic to me. That is one of them. And this is someone who I think would be coming in, like you're saying, with interesting strategies and stuff, but probably not having a large influence on day-to-day practice and personalities and clashing and those kinds of things. And so this is one of those pickups for me where, like, if I'm looking at a TSM coaching staff hiring of some kind that was going to get me excited, I would want, like, holy shit, they got Coma, or they got, person with really nice, insane pedigree to help get this team all on the same page. I don't know if Raz has a different feeling on the TSM, like what you would want to see out of TSM coaching to feel better.
I mean, I'm the type of person, if we're just talking about coaching staff, like, I think it's kind of weird. Like, I think Peter, the, coach in Spring Split, is really good. Like, I've heard a lot of great things from him, from previous players that's been underneath him. Like, I actually, like, many conversations that I've had with him, he's always been a bright person. I think a lot of the times the weirdest thing is, I know I already talked about the jungle in TSM, but, like, coaching staff is also just on the same fucking pedestal where the community will rail someone when they lose a game and just say, look at the draft! Because they have no idea how to, break down the game on any level, so they'll just talk about what's the most obvious thing is that lost because X pick went through or something. And so like a lot of the criticism towards Peter from the community has just been around that. So from the perspective of like from coaching staff, I just think Peter for me is like the best coach for the job from my understanding and my experiences. So if we're talking about like the question that came in is like, or at least the point that came in was, Vigar V2 is the most
Bigger.
influential thing. No, it's literally double-lived, but I mean, it's
Fair
for sure
enough
double-lived.
with that one. Yeah.
But like, if we're just talking about coaching, I don't know what happens internally in TSM, but it just never feels as though the coaches or whatever that comes through, like, I guess Zix was another one, usually gets any time of day. They're also on that 3-month time limit, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they come out with something new, then for sure, I guess we'll know where it comes from. Maybe.
Well,
So yeah,
I guess it's a difficult topic to talk about since we don't really know if it's
Yeah, it's a tough one.
well,
public
so that's
or
why
not.
I was trying to
Yeah.
less specifically broaden it out from the specific hire to thoughts on TSM coaching staff and what would make you excited and or would nothing make you excited, because to Raz's point, he didn't have a huge issue with TSM's coaching to begin with.
I would want, I always get excited when I hear, like, for instance, when Zix was the coach, right? I was excited. Like, it felt as though there was control being handed to, someone who had a wealth of experience in the game, and you knew that they had full faith in, a coaching figure. And then the reality was that they didn't. And then, like, so if that's the case, and it feels like it's the same thing, I don't know, with Peter, who knows? Like, how am I'm never gonna be excited if the system or the internal thought process on these changes don't change. So
I continue to think that the players are just going to coach themselves with people facilitating that conversation.
So strategic coach maybe helping them, maybe, and they coach themselves.
I mean, I
Giving
think
them
if this guy's
ideas.
getting hired, he's probably more of an analyst than
Yeah.
like he's just providing data or insights or whatever. But like ultimately, I think I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fair.
Thanks so much,
You got
Saronic. A short and easy call, but I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, have a good one.
Oh, do you have any final thoughts? Sorry.
Shout out to Game Fuel.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's great. I don't know. I really appreciate them sending in this game field, but now I'm starting to worry that we've given them too much publicity for somebody who's not sponsoring yet.
Yeah. Well, recently
maybe they
switched
should
to them.
sponsor.
So.
If Kelby clips this out and sends this to Game Fuel, just know that.
Do you want to hear this multiple times a show? Because you
I mean, they
could with a
Yeah.
sponsorship.
Yep. Thanks so much, Sonic.
Have a good one.
Right.
Just send them invoices.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Ghost
get
Tom
their
says just start sending them invoices. I like that.
go
a
to
lot.
their public whatever facing email is and just start invoicing them.
Turtlebite, thank you for the Prime. Nihilist Gamer, thank you for the 21 months. Overture 2112. I think I already said that, but I forget. Actually, Mark already left, but this is very funny. The TSM Reddit account got permabanned on our League of Legends today.
What?
Yeah, I just found out from the TSM subreddit.
What did they
Isn't that
do?
wild? They posted content to the subreddit.
All right, I guess that's enough. Book them. Send them home. Into jail you go. Content for us? Not allowed.
Says, so their social media person said, so the reason for this was due to spam. The R League of Legends mods want accounts to have 4 posts for every 25 comments. I was aware that we were in the limits. However, I didn't realize that they looked at your account across all of Reddit. So because they are posting stuff to their own TSM subreddit, that counts against their post ratio. So what they should do is create an account that's just like TSM LOL and post, like, keep that separate and then use the TSM account on the TSM.
Wait, I don't understand this. So because they're posting threads on
their own subreddit, it counts
they're not
against their
commenting,
ratio.
That is
for
the most idiotic rule of all time.
Well, it's
That
whenever
is
you're a Reddit mod, you
stupid.
just have to follow the. You never
That
think
is
about
just
the
dumb.
rule, or you never think about the context for the rule. Mark, what you missed was that the TSM Reddit account got banned from the R League of Legends account subreddit.
Wait, TSM's Reddit account got banned from the League of Legends subreddit because why?
Oh, here we go.
Because they posted too many. They didn't have the right ratio because it's supposed to be 4 to
9
everybody
to 1 ratio.
because it counted the threads that they were making in their own subreddit against their ratio. So they were within the ratio for our League of Legends, but because they were also submitting threads to the TSM subreddit, that meant that they didn't have enough comments for the amount of threads they were submitting, and so they.
But that's a site-wide rule or a
That's an our League of Legends
Legends
rule, I guess.
An R League of Legends rule that's apparently site-wide. You know what I mean? Like, it feels so.
So if I run
bad.
my own personal subreddit and I'm
Yes,
posting
you
things
do.
there for people,
Yes.
I'll get banned off League of Legends subreddit.
Unless you are posting, what is it? It's 4 threads for every 25 posts.
Is that what it is? Okay, I thought it
So
was
you have to every time you post
A lot of posts.
yeah.
All right.
Anywho, we got a new caller here, and
Yep.
our caller is Lil Chester 27.
I
Lil
love
Chester,
that.
where are you calling from?
Columbia, Missouri.
Columbia, Missouri. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Oh, you've been on the show before.
Yeah, I called about a month ago talking about Huni to Evil Geniuses, which worked out, I guess.
Oh, are you?
Wait, what?
Is this a victory lap call?
No, it's a separate topic, but I'll take my victory lap while I'm here.
There we go.
All right, take it.
This
I don't
guy
know what
literally
it
has
entails,
eyes
but
into the future. That make no sense. You should be a regular of this show.
Well, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So this week I'm calling in because I think Cloud9 would struggle to make the playoffs in the LPL for this summer split.
Oh my God, this is an amazing call, isn't it?
I just
He's,
feel like
you know,
this
he
is
got me.
just-
He said we got Raz on. We have to talk LPL.
I
and
feel
this
like
is a hot
this is
take.
when I just like get to sit back and watch Raz have a conversation.
Yeah.
So wait, let's run this back. You're saying they would struggle to make it into the playoffs of the LPL?
Yeah, so I have to admit I'm a recent LPL follower. I got into it as the seasons or the splits were wrapping up for the other ones, the LEC and LCS that I normally watch. But having watched now all of the playoffs and then the last few weeks of the LPL, it just seems like they're playing at a much higher level. I think the gap between North America and the LPL is now further than the gap has ever been between North America and the LCK. It just seems like the LPL is so stacked with depth. I mean, they just keep taking the best players from other regions, like Korea specifically, and just bolstering their already good teams, and they just keep seeming to get better and better every year. And then they always have a team like E-Star or somebody who seems to come out of nowhere and make a huge run. I think Cloud9 would struggle to win enough series to make the playoffs.
Oh my God. If I actually had a bigger head, maybe this would be my kind of call. You know what I mean? Like, my biggest issue, like, so anybody that's, you know, gone through my tweets about the LPL or heard my thoughts, I actually think this has been a pretty lackluster split for a lot of teams.
Well, and
like,
they've had tons of weird issues, right? So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, like, maybe they haven't been able to put in the most time in the game as a team on stage. Like, my biggest thing with this, like, okay. So, do I agree with this caller? That's a no. That's an instant no. Where would I place them? I would actually place them around. Actually, let me. They would actually be in the finals in my mind. So I actually think that they would be pretty damn good. The difficulty.
C9 in the LPL finals.
Yeah. So like my biggest issue is that
Would they win?
No, they wouldn't.
Who would they lose to?
I mean, JD ended up winning, so I guess so. Like the biggest problem with a theoretical conversation like this is the similarities of, you know, for me, the similarity of C9's playstyle and a lot of teams in the LPL really comes down to skill checking. It really comes down to like how good is Sven and Vulcan versus some of the LPL bot lanes, and or it's like just literally matchup dependent. I think the C9 would probably be a much smarter team than a lot of these teams in which I was watching. I think JD is the smartest team for sure. But even then, a lot of the finals, if people got to see that, was it wasn't the most intellectual final. It was actually a lot of problems around Baron, or at least like set up around an objective. So if I were to use my gut feeling, I would say that C9 would be in the finals and they would probably lose to JD. But these conversations would probably be resolved with an international event, and that's the sucky thing about all of this. So yeah, I would disagree. I think that a lot of my issues with LPL this split was that a lot of teams just kind of were lackluster with how they played the map. FPX going into playoffs literally just we're taking the worst trades versus non-playoff teams like on the map, and then we're winning fights because they were just mechanically better players. So it was like really hard to make a judgment call as to like, well, where is this team right now? So to put it short, I disagree. I think C9 actually deserves a lot of credit with how they play their game out, and they probably won't get it because they're just smacking NA. And this is the same issue that Flash Wolves had with like the LMS at the time, was that you're just so far above your domestic talent that no one's gonna give you credit on an international level. So that's my big thing.
Can I push back for 2 reasons?
Yeah, I want to hear it. I'd
So,
love to hear it. Please.
First, I think the point is that they have to make playoffs first, so they have to win. They do best of 3s, and so I think that it would be interesting to see. I think in playoff where they're best of 5 series, what you're talking about, where you do a more strategic approach to the game, plays out a little better over more games, and obviously 3 is better than 1 like we have in North America. But I think that skill checking could be a problem for them in the regular season. I think there'd be some times where they'd get 2-0'd just because they got outplayed in a couple lanes 2 games. And the other thing I'll push back on is I actually watched, I think it was Summoning Insight that you were on maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you guys had a discussion about how teams that play a different style and like a one outlier team in a region can help the whole region improve because you have to play the regular season games against them. So I think even if they did make it to the postseason, I don't think they would do as well having played the whole regular season out because other teams would get to learn from Cloud9 throughout the season, as opposed to it almost sounds like you're talking about just dropping them into the playoffs and letting them play out the LPL playoffs. And so I think that teams in China would really grow. Obviously, Cloud9 would grow. They'd have better competition than they've had in North America, but I think that they would figure out Cloud9's style, which is a lot easier to do than getting good enough to meet skill checks when you're going against some of the best players in the world individually in single lanes and roles.
So my biggest issue is if we're just talking about playoffs, it is so easy for Cloud9 to just be better than Team WE and eStars. eStars is a team that came into the split with like, they were all obviously like new players, but like Cryan was an exceptional talent. His issue is that like their team as an issue is like they played a very simple skirmish team fight play style, and then never developed as a team. Like they never challenged themselves on a conceptual level, and then even when they went up against better teams, they never really changed the way they played. So like, I think it's a very easy that C9 would make playoffs in LPL, and it's a good debate if whether they can get past like, Rookie, the Shy, and all that from Invictus Gaming, and there are some great players in top 4s, and then that's where the real question comes in. But I mean, that's where I would love to see C9 in an international event. I would just say from my gut feeling watching it, C9's a smarter team. If you just throw them in for an entire split and say, okay, everyone can learn from how C9 will play the game. I mean, I've just seen teams ram their heads against who was it, JD, and then they still didn't change their style. Like they just embraced whatever their current play style was. So I don't think that adaptation comes for a little bit. So it feels bad because maybe Raz in the past would say that, but I just think that this split was different from the last. So
if C9 would make playoffs and be in the finals, where do you think G2 would fall then? Just as an aside.
I think G2 would win. I think G2 and T1, yeah, that's their name. G2 and T1 for me look like the best 2 teams right now in the world. That was if an MSI would have happened, I actually would have pegged it to be a G2 versus T1 finals. So I think it's very difficult with G2 because we didn't get to see them like a wealth of games. We just saw them adapting from that Mad series. But they had a great trajectory, and they made adaptations in the meta with Enchanter supports that actually changes a lot of how you draft in the game. And they looked really damn good on it. So that would be my answer.
Twitch chat really engaged in this conversation. Little Chester, thank you so much for the call. Anything else you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
Nope. Thanks for having me on. I'm studying for the bar exam this July, so this is my break for the night. So I appreciate the time away, but now I got to go learn some more torts. So
I
Good luck.
appreciate you, man.
You should have done
Thanks for
something
having
better
me.
with your time.
I wanted to have a chance to talk to Raz about this because I don't think that we've had enough international talks because there's no international competitions
Yeah.
really. And so I've
Yeah.
watched some stuff recently where people have talked about individual regions, but I thought it'd be interesting to have this conversation. I guess I was
Yeah.
just a couple years too late for Raz to really get spicy with me,
Hey,
but
I,
I'll
I'm
take
more.
it.
I'm more on your side. I don't know about not make playoffs, but I think the skill checks scare me. They
Yeah,
scare me
skill checks
very.
matter. That's the
Yeah.
craziest thing too, because I always get hit by that. Like, when last Worlds, there were times where I would like go against an LPL team. Actually, literally the quarterfinals where it was like Invictus Gaming versus Griffin. I didn't have faith in IG skill checks, and then the game itself was wild. So yeah.
You never know. All right, 2 more callers
Thanks
to
so
go.
much, Little Chester, for the call.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
All right, we'll do one, and then we'll do the final break, and then we'll wrap it all up.
All right.
We know that that Raz's mic is having issues. We tried to fix it a ton before the stream, and then weren't able to do it before Twitch chat finally demanded we start the show. So this is where we are. Everyone. Blue Jay is here. Blue Jay, where are you calling from?
Sarnia, Ontario.
From Ontario?
Yep.
And you've been on the show before, yes?
Yeah, a few times. Yep.
What do you want to talk about?
So my take is that Dignitas getting rid of Huni is a good thing for Dignitas, and that EG getting Huni is also not good for EG. But I could see a few positive things coming from that, but I think it's better for Dig anyway.
Okay, so why?
The
Okay,
Huni hate thread.
yeah.
I don't want to call it a hate thread, man. Like I don't like to just hate on LCS players.
Yeah.
Because like I realize like they are doing their best and stuff like that, you know, like it's difficult to perform at that kind of level. But sure, if you want to call it a Huni hate thread, let's go.
Okay,
with
so
that.
why is it a good thing for Dig?
I think that he takes up a lot of resources, or has taken up a lot of resources, and I think you have capable carries in Johnson and Froggen. And I think that Dignitas, well, I guess not just Dignitas, more so just LCS teams in general, need kind of a role player top. Like, you can't just have someone who wants to carry all the time and try to play Lucian and Mordekaiser and things of that nature. So I think that having a role player top, even if, yes, it is 2 top laners that are not exactly stellar, and Viper and Lorlo, I think that you didn't exactly have a great top laner in the first place anyway, so I see it as an improvement.
Okay, why is he bad for EG?
He takes up an import slot, and well, EG has 2 imports in their mid and academy mid, so therefore you would have to get rid of Bang. So if he's going to academy, that's where I could see like some positive coming out of this, is if he were to go to academy and kind of act as like a player / coach and kind of take Kumo under his wing sort of thing, because he does have experience. You can't deny that he has experience. So I think that's where there's some positive there, because even though Kumo was not great, let's not pretend he was awesome, he still is new to the LCS, and I still would like to give him more time to see what we really think about Kumo.
Huni is about to be a resident. I don't think it's this split. I think it's next split.
Yes.
And you can get that in academy.
So let me get this straight. The point was Huni's not good for either org, and then at the end it was the asterisk of unless if he's in academy. And
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So if he's just with academy, isn't that just good for EG?
Maybe, but there hasn't been anything that's saying that he is with academy, and I think it's definitely worrisome if he is playing for their starting roster, because, well, yeah, obviously you have to lose Bang, which was, well, maybe not their best performer, but probably their second best performer.
Why do you have to lose Bang?
Well, because if he's saying you have to lose Bang or Jizuke.
Yeah, so why is it got to be Bang over Jizuke?
Because the academy mid laner is also an import slot, unless they find a new mid laner that is an NA resident.
Like Demonte, for instance.
I have no insight in this, by the way, so I can just say freely. But like, I literally just don't think there's a way in which they would change Bang or Jizuke, and I think this move is honestly just for the future. Because if I remember correctly, Huni just needs one split before he gets like resident, right? So now they just have him for next year, and that's kind of like the take on this is that they just have now an opportunity to have Huni, Svenskeren, Jizuke, Bang. Like that's an insane team, Zazel. Like that looks really damn good on paper. So like I would say that it's actually really good for EG. If Huni like wants to have the split in academy, that's really good for them.
I think my only concern is like what kind of contract do they have? Because if you got him for a summer split contract only, you're just basically like nurturing him for someone else, unless they got him for more. And I don't.
True.
Well, I heard on a stream recently that no one wanted. Oh no, that was a different player.
Was that wait? Did your mind actually just blank, or was that just a weird tie?
It was a joke. It was a joke.
I thought it was
okay.
But to
I
my
thought you
point,
blanked.
no. But I do mean like I don't know. Like I had heard a rumor that there was even a world where Huni might go back to Dignitas under a way lower contract because they like nobody really wanted him as a player. Like he was not in high demand, I guess I should say right now.
So
And
wait, are
so-
you saying like he would go back to Dig, or if he didn't? Basically, if he was to go back to Dig, he would have to take a massive pay cut. That's basically.
Well,
what
like
you're saying?
he was released officially from Dignitas, right? He was no longer on the contract database, which means that Dignitas could have signed him again underneath a completely new contract and would have had to because he wasn't under contract with them anymore, and that the terms of that contract could have been way more favorable for Dignitas.
Wait, Hunter, Golden Guardians. He's GM or CEO, or what is he?
He's the head of Golden Guardians. Hunter's in the
Head. Yeah, I knew he's above Danon, but I wasn't sure what title. Whatever. He said he'll be NA mid split, I believe, for what it's worth, which means
spicy.
Is that a thing?
I didn't know that happened mid split.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I mean, not like I actually have any idea what I'm talking about, because I would assume a player joins at start of split, and then that's when their residency would have started. So Tuna didn't join the middle of the split last time, though, right? And was there a problem with him with his visa the first time he came? No, because he came over with the Mortals, and he was instantly okay.
Uh-oh.
Empire says Hunter's wrong.
Okay. He'll be okay. Well, whatever. The point is, if he gets residency in 2021 spring, and their contract doesn't extend through there, I don't think this is a smart pickup for EG, because his value on Academy seems pretty limited unless it's just to spar basically with Kumo, but never really get a shot, because I don't think you'd ever ditch Jizuke or Bang.
I think you just sign him thinking about next year. I think don't him and Bang kind of get along?
Yep.
So maybe this keeps Bang happy.
I was just about to bring up Bang about like, are we sure that Bang's happy where he's at? Because there was, mind you, I don't get a lot of information about this, but there was a clip of him basically saying, "I can't control my teammates."
Yeah. We talked about that a lot on the show.
Artemis came on, if you didn't see, and basically said that was blown out of proportion.
And sure, pretty much everything in like news world gets blown out of proportion. However, it's still not something you should say.
Yeah. I think he was saying even in context of news world, that was
okay.
I mean, if let's say they got a bargain deal on Huni and he is going to Academy, he gives you, and you're not sure if Kumo is going to be able to become the top laner you want him to be this split. It gives you options for next year. If he's friends with Bang, then maybe that's good. You can potentially improve your Academy. Like there's a reason to put veterans in your Academy roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like that. If it's worth it financially to them, I don't think this is a bad move.
I think this is just like probably the best move you can make, honestly, and just putting that out there.
I have a question about how the contracts work. Can you just make a contract like back half heavy kind of thing to like, just because his last contract didn't work out so well, where like they just had to let him go. So like maybe you sign him to like a little baby contract for this split and then a real contract for next year kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they have to pay him the minimum for academy.
Okay.
So, and I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's that much.
25,000, I think now.
And they're probably paying him more than that, right? Because there's brand value. I mean, that's the other thing, by the way, we're not even mentioning is like who he does have a big following. Like, I know he's fallen from grace in the eyes of some of the LCS fans, but like, he's not a bad player to have around. Maybe you make him stream and stuff.
Is he evil?
So yeah, I mean, there's a world where they say, hey, you know, we'll sign you to this academy contract, and then if you start playing in LCS, you get promoted up to this income. You can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I just, my only point is, if he's just there to be Bang's friend, I'm like, eh. I would hope that the contract extended longer than summer. If it's just a summer contract, I'm not excited about it at all because it's not like a big brain move.
I mean, I would be shocked if it was just a summer contract. I don't feel like people generally do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. But
although, let's say they are paying him the minimum, which is like 12,500. I don't think this is the case at all. I can't imagine it. But if he's just there to be Bang's friend for 12,500, do you do that, Mark? These guys, I mean,
no, I think it's bumped. It used to be 12,500 a split. I think it's 2,500 now a split.
25,000 a split, you mean?
Yeah, excuse me, 25K. I could be wrong. I thought it went up.
Okay.
Maybe not. But yeah, if you're getting paid $25,000 to be someone's friend, fuck yeah, I'd be anyone's friend for that amount.
Yeah, I think the greatest value to this is literally just to
wait.
If you feel like Kumo needs to improve, then you have Huni there to improve him.
I'm just realizing I'm doing the math right now on how much money I pay Mark a year.
To be,
I think you pay more to be my.
And it's making me question whether or not what his motivations are for being my friend.
He's a producer, isn't he?
Blue Jay, any final thoughts before we move on to the last caller?
Yeah, so just a little quick question then. I guess I wanted to know your guys' opinion on if you do actually think that Froggen and Johnson are worthy carries, or if you do need more carry potential in top lane or not.
This is a very off-topic question, and I feel like you're shoving in a...
I don't think it's that off-topic. I kind of
You're talking about
it to
human different players?
No, I'm still talking about how, like, with Dig, he was basically taking up a lot of resources and wanted to play a carry role. Whereas, like, I think Johnson and Froggen were more than capable carries on that team. If it's too deep, like, I don't want to take up all the time.
Top 3, I don't think so. Playoffs, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, maybe they could have made playoffs with a different top laner, but yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, Blue Jay, for the call.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
I think he could have made playoffs with a different jungler from the beginning. I think he could have made playoffs potentially with a different mid laner, with a different support, with a different AD.
All right.
I think any of those could be true. So that's why I don't think it's a very powerful statement.
Listen, everyone, I'm very excited for this. I really, it's great whenever anybody decides to sponsor the show and the content that we make. We've had some great long-term sponsors and even some that have come in for a short time. But this was such an easy yes to me when I got presented with this opportunity, because on this show, we've had so many people call in and say, I wish Riot would do fantasy. Why aren't they doing fantasy? We had, I think, a call to the commissioner about it on the show that he was on a while back. And then whatever a website comes in or a brand comes in who's basically like, hey, we are fantasy and we're just like a better version of, well, they didn't picture that way, but I'll tell you guys, it is a better version of what Riot used to do in a lot of ways with a lot more functionality. You say yes. And that's what happened. Draft Buff, which I'm loading up right now. So you can head over to draftbuff.com. This is actually, if you go to draftbuff.com/home, you can actually create a mock draft. But they have apps. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and go to their main page at first so that you guys can see sort of the screenshot of the experience as it loads up here. So they, by the way, you can use, if you go to draftbuff.com, you can check this all out, and you can use Travis Gafford as the code to log in. I'll put that in the Twitch chat right now. But by the way, there's a link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. So they've been doing some fantasy stuff for a little bit now, and they now have League of Legends stuff. I think they started it last split, if I'm being honest. But now you can get in on the action now. and they do a bunch of cool stuff that I really like in talking to them. So first off, they've got apps for both Google Play and the Apple App Store, iTunes App Store, whatever it's called, the App Store, and those apps are pretty fantastic. So you can check that out. If you go over to draftbuff.com/home, I believe it is, and they've just rolled out this functionality. So bear with me. I think in part so that I could show it on the show, because I said, hey, I want to show, like, you can actually do a mock draft, so you can see how everything works out, and you can draft for LCS or LEC. And by the way, they now let you do hang on, I want to show. Let's see. I want to get Raz's reaction because I think he'll think this is cool. You can draft a combination LEC and LCS fantasy league. So you can draft players from both, which I know Riot's system I think used to do or whatever, but that's kind of cool. And I've heard, look, I don't know if they want me saying this. In fact, they're watching right now, and I think they might message me on Discord. But they're looking into doing it with some of the other leagues as well. So I'd go check that out. Download the app. Because wouldn't it be cool, by the way, if you could draft in some of these other League of Legends leagues? No Academy Leagues fake, says Kelsey Moser. Kelsey, you and Raz can rise up and talk to DraftBuff about doing Academy, and I'm sure that they would love to create the functionality to support a league.
Get Dig Academy from the first half of spring split on my roster.
Anyway, and they've got a bunch of different ways to customize it. You can have less players. They also do something called, which is, I don't think it's on the website yet, but they do limited runs for the weekend, which they'll be doing. And actually, I'm going to try and convince Mark to do one with me for the first weekend of it. But this is just, it's honestly so cool. And I'm very, very happy that they came in. It's like one of the most easy sponsors to promote in terms of just like the value that they give to the audience. You guys love stuff
Everyone
like this.
wants
and you can
this.
go check it out. Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to worry anymore. So yeah, they have got something called Draft Royales. I've got it up on my phone. Draft Royales that they do if you just want to do it just for the first weekend or whatever. But I recommend going and making a league with your friends, etc. Now they have this. By the way, it's all free. They do have some cosmetic stuff. There's no gambling, by the way. They do have some cosmetic stuff where you can have like special things or whatever. It's much like League. You don't need any of this stuff if you aren't interested in it, but. You can get access to some extra, they call them bananas, that's their currency, if you use the referral code Travis Gafford when you sign up. And that helps me out a ton because obviously I'd love for them to know that you guys are signing up using my stuff. But draftbuff.com, go look it up in the Google store, go look it up in the Apple or in the App Store. And they didn't tell me to do this, but I'm going to say this. If you like the app, please go review them and give them a 5-star rating and leave a nice review. And then in the review say you found out about it from Travis Gafford or Hotline League because that's
And
the
tweeted
proof.
them too.
Yeah. Anyway, go check out DraftBuff. Honestly, again, link in the description. I could just promote them forever, but we need to go on to the final caller. I'm really excited about this. And stay tuned because we are going to be doing some really cool stuff with them from a partnership standpoint in the next couple of weeks, assuming I can convince Mark to
I saw Raz put a finger up. What was that?
Wait, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, here's my great idea for a cosmetic for this application. I have a player. Let's just say I use Double It for Summer Split. Have a skin for him. Bling, gold teeth, all that. I need to make my guy look cooler.
Well, I think it's complicated because there's a rights usage issue where they might have to pay the players for that. I'm not speaking on behalf of them. I have no idea. We're definitely going off script for this right now, and I'm gonna have to talk to my guests in the future about demanding things from
Don't
sponsors.
talk when I'm doing a fucking ad.
All right, fair.
But either way, yeah, go check them out. It's super sick. I'm really excited about this. I'd love to see a ton of people doing this. By the way, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, assuming I can get Mark to do this, in the first week, we're gonna do a big whole thing together with Draft Royale where like all the Hotline League viewers can get in on it and compete against me and Mark because you guys are always, you think you know so much, and so that'll be your time to prove it. We'll talk more about that in future episodes. I wasn't supposed to talk about that in this episode, but I'm legitimately pretty excited about it.
Guys, I keep breaking rules, but
I mean it's cool.
hey guys, I got another little rule to break.
I'm a bad boy, Travis.
Hey guys,
All right, not only do I need to talk to my guests, but also my co-hosts about helping me in the sponsor.
What? This
pitch.
is after the sponsor thing. I'm just commenting on the fact that you said something like that like 6 times. It's funny. It's cute. It's real cute.
I'm legitimately excited about this.
Hey guys, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but
and I'm excited about all our sponsors, but this one and I'm just it's cool to be able to literally promote something everybody's been asking for.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. We gotta move on. But
yeah, we have a caller in here for like the last minute and a half.
Tom Shu is here. Tom Shu, where are you calling from?
What's up, guys? Calling from Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Hampton Roads, Virginia. Oh, I got to give Draft Buff VIP. What do you want to talk about on the show, Tom Shu? One of our most popular callers.
As always, yeah, it's good to finally be back on the show.
Yep.
I'm just trying to stay awake since it's almost 1 o'clock and Travis is going through his Draft Buff stuff. Whatever.
Come on, man.
Please don't mock the sponsor, Tom Shu.
He's
Otherwise,
mocking you.
I will mock your.
Oh no, Draft Buff is
moderate.
amazing. I'm sure. Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, but anyway, there was a story on the Reddit thread that there was a different show. I won't name it, but it had Monte Cristo and there was like some analyst named Hal Biagas, and they were talking about.
He's not an
LCS
analyst.
salary.
He's the head of the. He's the head of the Players Association.
Really?
Not the head of it. He's the guy that manages it. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, I gotcha. So yeah, they were basically talking about the Players Association, and he was going into current LCS player salaries, and they said, and he said the average player salary has now increased to $410,000.
Yeah.
Like that seems like that's a pretty insane number. Like how much salary inflation we've gotten ever since franchising started. I remember seeing in an article in ESPN right when franchising started. This was around late 2017, saying that Riot said the average salary was around 150,000.
I think it was higher than that. I thought it was like 300 or something.
Yeah, well, this was November 2017. I don't know if they were talking about they were including academy players or just talking about the median salary. I'm sure this number is probably a little bit smaller if it's median salary, because I'm sure it's pretty top heavy with like people like Double Lift and Team Liquid making tons of money. But
I mean, citation on if Double Lift is making tons of money, but sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't be making money.
What? Where? On TSM?
Well, yeah, TSM. I mean, they always pay
Double
the
Lift
players.
making money. I'm just saying, like, if Double Lift, Bjergsen, and all these names ain't making money.
I mean, Bjergsen, like, I ranked the teams based off of how much they're paying in salaries, and Bjergsen probably isn't getting paid that much in cash or top end on cash because he's got equity, and Double Lift supposedly didn't really negotiate like didn't consider other team offers essentially whenever he joined TSM, which probably put him in a not so competitive market.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The TSM trade, was it an actual trade or was it?
So he's re-signed to like the way he's
restructured his contract. Whatever.
Yeah, because he's there for an extra year. Otherwise, it would have been only through the summer.
Right. Well, yeah. It depends how, because there's contract restructurings, there's contract extensions in traditional sports, and those are different. But I assume there's no difference in LCS, and it's just a restructured contract.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wonder, Travis, you would know probably a little bit better. Do you feel like there's a massively higher top end overall than this average, because there's a median versus average for salaries? I know a lot of people preferred finding the median.
Yeah, I think the people at the top probably get paid a ton, and the people, and then a lot of people get paid way less, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I was wondering if
because thinking about some of these players making $410,000 to play this bad makes my skin crawl.
I mean, they're getting paid what people are willing to pay them. Like, I don't think
thinking about managers being this dumb to pay $410,000.
Well, here it's not like, okay. Here's what happens that people don't understand. It's not like the Papa Smithies and the Danons of the world who are, or Papa Smithies like, all right, you said the managers, right? Who's like, I will decide to, out of my own account, pay somebody $400K. they're getting a budget from team owners who are under pressure from their investors to perform, because investors really only understand results, and they're all, I mean, I went on this rant before, right? They're all rich people who don't like losing because they're rich people and they don't know what losing means. They feel like they should just be able to buy success, and all their life they've been able to. So they're like, I'll just buy more of that.
And then
Here.
Steve did it, so you're like, wait, it's totally possible.
Well, and Steve has money from his investors, right? Like TL has done multiple raises and has a ton of people involved. So, like, it's difficult for me to hear the blame being put on the GMs, because, like, feel free to blame the GMs if you don't like the roster, but I don't feel like blaming GMs for the amount of money that is being spent is the right place to put the blame.
Let's just say if I have an organization called Raz Gaming and I come into the LCS, am I just going to be like, yeah, we're just going to pay our own kind of salary? I'm not going to look at the market value whatsoever. I'm just going to say, no, I know better. And the only players that are available to me are people that can't even make academy. Like, it's not your choice most of the time. If you want to be a competitive team, you have to buy into what the market value is.
So at what point are we balancing competition versus profitability?
I mean,
because at this point we're 410,000. Like, profitability for any esports team is just getting further and further away.
I mean, you say, okay, well, a couple different things. One,
is a Travis call. Let's go.
We don't know that, because we don't know. So I would agree with you that teams are overspending. No, if the take is that teams are overspending, I would 100% agree with that. And if you're asking if I think salaries are way too high, I would also 100% agree with that. I think, I'm not sure if I'm not confident enough to say that profitability is getting further and further away, because until last year, like, the league had very little revenue, at least in relation to where it could be, right? Like, the amount of sponsors that came on last year went way up. Riot has now commissioned a third party to shop broadcast rights around for next year to different companies. So we might see it exclusively on Twitch or exclusively on YouTube or something. We'll have to see. But, like, I definitely feel as though they've done a ton to increase the revenue of the league, and I don't know. I wouldn't be confident enough to say that the salaries have gone up way higher or way faster than the revenue has gone up.
Well, I think it's great that, you know, Riot is taking these steps, but still, if you, like, multiply average salaries $410,000 and you multiply that by 50 players, that's like multiple tens of millions of dollars. And are we sure that these, like, endemic sponsors are actually like making up the difference between these teams, or what Team Liquid is able to pay their players? Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, sorry. Is your take that Team Liquid is losing money?
Well, is that everyone's losing money, and that, like, no one seems to be very interested in actually pursuing profitability. So it's like, like, you see, like, all these esports orgs courting these investors who don't know anything about the scene, and they walk in and say, hey, this could be the next multi-billion-dollar industry. And so you take all these investors who don't know anything, and then all you do is just tell them, give them the possible benefits, and then you just take their money and just keep investing it. Because of how limited liability works, you don't need to do anything when you don't need to worry about profitability, and you can just ride on this massive wave of venture capital money and debt, and it doesn't matter, because as long as you're getting paid and as long as the investors are happy, it doesn't matter.
Who was it? Somebody posted a great... Oh, Cody Connors, I think it was. Let me see if I can find this. Posted a great thing about Grubhub, where Grubhub essentially... It's good that this is the last episode, or last call, because I'm sure we're just going to be bleeding viewers right now.
For sure.
Grubhub essentially...
League fans interested, like...
I was going to rip on TSM, like, as my, like, goodbye, so...
Okay, people will stick around for you making fun of TSM then.
Hell yeah.
Where is it? Okay, well, whatever. I can't find it on his Twitter, but it's basically like, hey, Grubhub just loses money hand over fist, and it's just a race between all these different food delivery services to lose a ton of money and get as much viewership, or not viewership, and as much like business as possible without worrying about it. Like I think they lost, I don't know, it's some ridiculous number. I wish I could find the article now, but maybe somebody else can.
Yeah, but to be fair,
Yeah,
as
do you-
I'm not a business expert, but as I understand it, the idea is that they're willing to spend to try and grab a hold of what will be a substantial market long term, and get their customer base, and then hopefully you survive while other competitors die off, and then you can like you're spending money to get a sizable chunk of this market that's hopefully gonna to stabilize,
I
which
guess,
is a
Yes.
pretty different thing than
which is kind of weird because like LCS is the only player in the game. Like you've seen like other like startup companies get big, like Spotify got big, and then Uber got big, and then they try and monetize. And okay, so now this is where it starts getting difficult.
Well, I'm just saying I don't think these situations even apply, because like there's not like an LCS team is not trying to get a market share of something. They're just trying to their thing that they're trying to achieve is winning, which is of course trying to get eyeballs and a portion of the market share of viewers and fans and stuff like that. But I think it's a pretty different idea, because you're like it's less
Yeah,
like
so
there's
like
an extra step in between where like you have to win and make a good roster and these kinds of things. Like that should be your goal, so then you get fans versus spending money just to get the fans.
yeah, and
That's
it's
what
like
I'm saying.
where's the end game? I mean, there is no end game. I thought the goal of a business is to make money.
So the article is named DoorDash and Pizza Arbitrage. I'll put it in the Twitch chat and everybody else can Google it. But it's a very, like, if for the people that are interested in this stuff, like if you think the esports side is fucked up, you should go look at food delivery businesses, because it's actually just insane. Like they're basically losing $500 million a year, chasing something that's unsure of if it can be profitable even if they had max market share. And it just made me think a lot about what we see in esports, and like esports is pretty small pennies to that. I don't know if, to your point, I guess the question is, let's say a team is spending $4 million in operating costs for their League of Legends team a year.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hope that they can make back that $4 million plus more, and not just more, but like way more, and then across all their other stuff make way more, and in 10 years be huge, because their investors are going to demand that, and they have to pay back all the money they've borrowed and all that stuff. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I wonder if Riot would be willing to think about opening up to betting sites like CS:GO.
This is a tangent that
You're way off on a different thing now, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. The interesting thing is, I don't know if it matters, because I think a lot of these companies and investors are willing to just lose money for a long period of time. That being said, we are now entering into, or we are, I believe, technically in a recession that might last for a while, so we're going to see how long the appetite is for all this stuff. I continue to think that a lot of the moves that Dignitas made, including dropping Huni, are at least somewhat motivated by the financial pressure that their parent company is under. And I think players are overpaid. The league is not sustainable from a revenue standpoint and profitability standpoint, and just have to improve, or you're going to see a bunch of teams go under and salaries drop. And
random two things too is, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure isn't like the number of sports teams who actually make money pretty low? Like, isn't a lot of it like you have $1 billion franchise that you buy and you hope you can sell it for more at some point down the line or something?
So I don't know about.
And it's also a bit of a play thing for a lot
So
of
I think it depends a lot on the sport. I do know that broadcasts, like, I don't know, a lot of these teams lost money until they started making a ton of money a while ago, and that was because of things like broadcast rights and I don't know, a bunch of different stuff. So it gets really complicated. But yes, sports teams have often been money sinks for rich people that eventually became pretty profitable.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, that's a closer comparison for me to make than I think.
So like
DoorDash.
valuation versus like year to year.
Right.
I hope that I have, and I think one thing that kind of sucks with the quarantine thing hitting is that the LPL had a pretty good direction on team stadiums, like not only was it selling seats quite frequently, but they had their own merchandising stores within their built-in like venues. So like those are great ways to profit, like to or at least gain extra forms of profit. Is not only ticket sales that are consistent for some of these teams, but also just like merchandising that is really difficult a lot of the times to get eyeballs on.
Yeah,
So
but
like,
the LPL is like it
but
almost
that's
is
the
like comparing the
direction.
LCS to the NBA. Like LPL is so big; it's the third biggest sport in China.
Yeah, but my point is like that's the direction that we're looking towards. Is that we're not expecting, or at least I'm not like the LCS isn't expecting to be in this current position forever. Like the LPL literally just let like 2 years ago, um, we're nowhere near this. So like in terms of there being progress, yeah, I think that's what the hope is, and I don't think LCS, maybe I could be completely fucking wrong, but I don't think LCS in a year from now will be in the same position LPL is. That's not what I'm saying. Is that I'm expecting them to get better in terms of merchandising. I'm already seeing that to be a great improvement for a lot of LCS teams. Is that their merchandising is so much better now, um, and then whatever happens with franchising will happen.
I just
Like,
we're not trending in a good direction. Like
another problem.
LCS viewership down this split. So
Another problem that I think League of Legends has in general, like I guess esports in as a whole, is that with sports you can get what is it called again? Salary caps, easy. Like it's easy it's easy to have salary caps in those industries because like the NBA, the NHL, like all of them are just it's competing within the best league. With League of Legends, if I would imagine if you have a salary cap in North America, well, I'm just going to go to a different region. That's the
you
easiest thing.
can't do a salary cap. I mean, yes,
There's a lot of steps.
There's a lot of different things there too, right? Like we would need a players union, and a players union is not incentivized to go under a collective bargaining agreement because that would mean they'd make less money. So, I mean, we've touched on this a little bit on the show before.
CBA would also, like salary caps are usually determined by revenue, and then like is how much revenue is the league actually bringing in? Is it something that you can actually divvy up in a way or decide, like you're saying, to make players actually want to play in that region and stuff? Or does that mean every European player goes back home because already a bunch of them don't play in North America, apparently?
No, I mean, if you're an LCS pro, now's, in my opinion, your time to just make as much money as possible because I don't think that salaries will stay this high for this long.
Yeah, I would agree that I would think that it would drop at some point, but it's also been going up over and over, so who knows? The other thing I was going to say is head tap to Golden Guardians for being the most win share to cost team.
Yeah, the most efficient team.
Yes, and I don't know, you didn't reveal any specifics in that video, but I'll just say they were definitely the most efficient team by a good amount.
I actually don't know if it's a good amount because C9 has such a great equation because they won so much.
Wins. Yeah. So like it's the fact that they were above a 17 win org, that was, it says a lot.
Very highly impressive.
Yeah. As much as I meme on Golden Guardians, they're the little guys, the Oakland A's. I guess they're supposed to be the Golden State Warriors, but they're the Oakland A's.
Anywho, Tom Shu, thanks so much for the call. Anything else you want to say?
Can I rip on TSM real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, oh my god. Can we talk about how TSM is getting ready to ruin yet another jungler? Like, I don't know what it is with TSM's fetish or Bjergsen's fetish with these mechanically skilled solo queue junglers that they go in and they bring them into their system and immediately just turn them into team like dogs. Like, honestly, I remember like TSM was getting ready to make a big offer for Xmithy, and then Immortals came in and like slapped their money while on the table and pulled them away. And if TSM really cared that much and to get them to succeed, they would have just pulled out the bag. I mean, it's TSM. It's not like they don't have tons of money. And all this drama with Dardoch and Spica and Acadian and everything probably would have never happened if they just ponied up the money and then just got Xmithy. And because there is no reason for them, if they really care that much about succeeding, then they would have just dropped the cash, because it seems like Xmithy is the kind of jungler they're exactly looking for. It's just a team dog that kind of knows what everyone knows what every single lane wants, and now they're trying to train up these young junglers, and they just take them, they chew them up, and they spit them out, and it's just going to keep going on like this until management realizes that there's something they can do about it, because
I'm realizing that if I don't stop you, this will just continue.
If we just make TSM Smithy.
I like the caller, the person in Twitch chat who noticed before we did that this is just a filibuster.
Exactly.
Thanks, Tom.
No, get out of here, Tom.
Wait a minute. Travis,
don't engage him. Don't engage him till he's
Travis, the first caller
I kicked
that
him
you
out.
brought in, you kicked him before he even, and he was the nicest human being before he finished his point.
What does that have to do with this?
Kick this man on the street.
He's out.
Oh,
he's out.
He's gone
immediately before he even finishes his point.
He's gone.
I see what Raz is saying. He's saying if Travis is cold-hearted enough to cut a nice man out early.
Boot that man.
So you don't think Bjergsen has a fetish for ruining mechanical junglers?
I actually do think I will agree with Tom so much that it's actually crazy that they didn't just pony up the money for Smithy.
Oh, okay, about that point.
Yeah,
I thought you were agreeing with
me. No, I like as he said that I completely, there was no argument in my mind. Like I think TSM should. On one hand, I just talked about how I feel like the teams overpay people. On the other hand, which is a gun. That's a Tim Rogers reference to a Final Fantasy VII video.
Okay.
I definitely think they should have just paid money to Smithy to get him. And they would be in a way better position right now. Smithy, Peter wanted to play with Smithy.
I mean,
why didn't they just do that?
I don't understand. Like, who's to say that they wouldn't do the exact same thing to Smithy? Like, there's a reputation here for a reason. Like, I think that...
Which one do you think is more likely to work out and be a consistent player on the team, Dardoch or Smithy?
Yeah, Smithy, probably. Yeah, of course. Of course it's Smithy.
Oh, I thought you were saying this offseason you wanted them to pony up. You wanted them to pony up before Immortals smacked them up.
Yeah, they should have just spent the money.
All right, wait, when? I'm asking you, this offseason or last offseason or both?
They should have is a past tense participle.
Right, and both of them are in the fucking past tense.
Yeah, so what's going on, Travis?
Which one?
5 months ago.
Okay.
You didn't want them to pony up now when Smithy is supposed to
they can pony up now, but like I don't know if you like. I mean, the rumor is he's benched, so I don't know why they would put him on the bench and then not trade him. But, yeah, like whatever. Even if he's available now, get him now. They just spent they bragged about a $50 million training facility. Make it a $49 million training facility.
Invest in the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Smithy is. I have no idea what's happening or the rumor that you're talking about in terms of where Smithy's currently at. Smithy literally had, like, I don't know. I guess he got kicked from TL or what happened in that regard. Like, he had an insane personal showing at Worlds for me. I thought he had, like, in terms of his mechanics, was like really strong on that regard. Like, he was the best jungler in North America in my mind. And then so like obviously. And, for sure, I think you should just go get him if you have the money for it.
Maybe they're waiting for him next off season when he's a free agent again. If he is benched.
I don't know if he's only had a 1-year contract. I assume it was more than one.
Yeah, but I assume if you're benched for summer, you're finding a way to get out of that.
I'm just saying that team had Svenskeren, so yeah.
All right.
The one who got away.
We got a hype train going in Twitch chat, so thank you for the subs. Mark, what do you want to shout out here at the end of the show?
I want to shout out Rice for drying out my laptop after I spilled water in it.
Oh,
Rice
it was a laptop.
Yeah.
I thought it was a huge damn tower. I was like, how?
You could still do it.
Actually, Raz, have you seen the
this
Auroras?
laptop's fucking huge anyways. I had to go out and buy a 10-pound bag of rice at 6 a.m.
The Alien Auroras actually are quite manageable from a size perspective.
I honestly, I'm not even saying, I'm not bullshitting. I have Alien Aurora. That's my PC.
Rice is also delicious. It's a great, you can use it so many different ways. It's fantastic. For how much it fills you up for the calories, it's not bad. There's nothing you can't say that's not good about rice.
Raz, what do you want to promote?
Myself, no. I mean, Golden Guardians, amazing organization. Split's about to come up in around 2 weeks' time. So you get to watch some amazing games happen from an LCS level, an academy level. And if you have enough content from all of that, you can also watch my stream at twitch.tv/Razzleplasm. There we go.
Thank you.
There we have it.
I'm going to give a shout out to the Hype Train, which only has 2 minutes left for us to complete this level in the Twitch chat. Let's get some subs in the chat or some bits. I'm going to stick around and do a bounty, which I would appreciate if people also stick around for because that helps me out. Shout out to Alienware and our new sponsor, Draft Buff. It's really cool that they're here. Go check it out. Draft Buff. What, Mark?
That thing. Someone had a good point. I was asking what I should do with all my laptop rice because I put about 5-10 pounds of rice on my laptop to dry it out, but I don't really want to cook and eat it. But someone said I should cook it and make snowballs and have a rice snowball fight with it. I thought it was a great idea.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't get like rice in the computer? Because there's like.
Start shaking it and see.
And stuff.
I would fucking smell it if there was rice in here. All right, this thing's cooking.
Yeah, there we go.
Rice doesn't. Okay.
What,
Red Rain
rice
just
doesn't
gifted
smell?
10 subs in the chat. Thank you, Red Rain.
Were you about to say rice doesn't smell?
Rice smells.
Well, whenever it's, I don't think
It's a good smell.
that dry kernels of rice smell.
They will smell.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Have you
put a
ever
dry
opened up
kernel
a-
of rice on
Yeah.
a heater, it's gonna smell.
Yes.
Travis doesn't cook, so this is kind of a moot point. This is
This
like
is very true.
Thanks
it's like
everyone
trying to
for
explain-
watching this.
He's
version-
enjoying his
this
takeout
episode
chicken right now.
of Hotline
he's
League.
like, but KFC isn't rice.